Welcome to the Jazz Notes podcast. I'm your host, Ben Anderson.
I'm Chandler Holt.
We are recording this on July 28th, and we have officially entered slow season in the NBA. Things are really kind of battening down the hatches until we get to really the beginning of training camp. There'll be a little bit of news, I think, here and there for teams making random signings, but across the NBA, like nothing is happening. We're going days and days and days without any major news of any kind. And I don't expect a lot of major news, minus like LeBron deciding he's bored and wanting to ask out of LA, which I honestly don't think is going to happen. I just don't think there's a lot of major news pieces coming out here. But that doesn't mean the podcast is going away. Appreciate everyone coming back after last week. I was out of town, so we took it off. And I might be doing some solo shows coming up because you're traveling.
Yep.
But we will continue to make sure we do the podcast weekly.
Yes.
And if there is not going to be weekly, we will make sure you know about it. As always, find us on Twitter and Blue Sky at Ben's Hoops and C Holt Sports, or read us at kslsports.com. And appreciate everyone who's watching this episode on YouTube. We didn't get it to work 2 weeks ago, but it's working now. So if you want to watch it, that way, it's the best way to do it. Or wherever you listen to your podcast.
Yes.
All right, we do have a little bit of news, and because we didn't record last week, we did not get to wrap up Summer League.
Yes.
So we will do that. We'll, of course, always wrap up the show with the mailbag. But let's talk about one little piece of news that actually is kind of applicable, and that's that the Jazz waived Jaden Springer.
Yes. I feel like kind of expected, especially after the what happened with Johnny Juzang. We thought he would be sticking around, but then the Jazz sort of opt to go with the veteran, keep Svi Mikhailuk around, and then became official, waived Jaden Springer. I think it was earlier last
24th.
week. Yeah, 24th.
It was on, because I think his guarantee date was the 25th, or maybe his guarantee date was the 24th, so they waived him right before it, whatever it was. And that is what is important to remember here. The reason I think this is worth talking about, not that we expected Jaden Springer to make the roster necessarily, is that teams hold on to these guys generally until the very last second before they waive them for a handful of reasons. Maybe the player in front of them in the depth chart gets hurt or gets arrested or something, and okay, you need their depth. So you hold on to them and you say, well, that's why they were on the roster in the first place. Or some team randomly says, hey, we want to trade for that player.
Yep.
Well, you can't trade them if they're not on your roster. So you hold on to them to the very last second, and then you waive them and say goodbye to the money.
Yes.
You don't have to spend the money on them, which is also what I would tell you to keep an eye on with KJ Martin.
Okay.
I don't know. Like I have said, I kind of don't expect KJ Martin to be back next year. I have never been able to find, nor do I think anyone knows what his guarantee date is, other than he has like one of the weird mid-season guarantees. Like in January, if he's still on the roster, he gets more money. But I know his contract is not guaranteed for this season. And I don't know if the Jazz are going to take the $8 million and just pay him $8 million just to have him. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if they're going to keep KJ Martin around. I know that's one of the bigger questions, I think, still going into the season. It could be his guarantee date could be as late as like September 30th. Yeah. Like sometimes it's like as camp is starting or as you get into camp. So I'm not sure on that. But that's one thing I would apply the Jaden Springer logic to KJ Martin as well, if you're trying to keep an eye on him being on the team. Like just the fact that the Jazz haven't waived him yet doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Yeah. So for right now, like you said, dead of the offseason, potential things to look out for the Jazz are that KJ Martin deal, and then also potentially Kevin Love being bought out. There was a report recently that he's looking for one of these glamour markets, LA, someplace like that. And then as you mentioned, with these buyout situations, it's sort of like they get the deal ready, as with Jordan Clarkson and the Knicks. They get the deal ready, and then they buy him out, and then there's like maybe the team that's signing him will take on some of the buyout money.
Yeah, Jake Fisher from the Stein line, who's done a very good job covering the NBA in recent years, kind of laid that out. And that's what you've seen. Basically with every buyout, with the exception of Damian Lillard this summer, the team is granted grants the agent permission to go and seek a deal elsewhere.
Yes.
And when they have it, the agent brings it back to the team and says, Jordan Clarkson has an offer from the Knicks for the veteran minimum, $3.6 million. We will take that out of the buyout, so he's just made whole. And the Jazz, great, we save $3.6 million. You go to the city you want to and the team you play in. It's kind of a win-win.
Yes.
We save money, you don't lose money, and you get to go to the team you want to play for. So that's the advantage there. So always keep an eye on that when it comes to Kevin Love. The difference being that Jordan Clarkson probably did still have some suitors.
Yeah.
And I don't know what type of suitors Kevin Love has. It's not zero, but our team's willing to, at this point in late July, where we still have 2 months of the offseason before really gear up, is a team willing to commit $3.6 million or whatever to Kevin Love knowing that there's no better options available, it's important to remember Kevin Love played like 23 games last year.
Yeah.
He played 10 minutes a night. Like, he is not a steady rotation player at all. So I don't think any team is going to say, like, that's the guy we have to have. You probably kick the tires on other options first, and then when it all falls apart, as you get close to the season, you make this deal.
Yes.
So that's kind of what I would bet. I just don't think anyone's like signing Kevin Love to play 25 games. And some of it's because his dad died, and he took some time off to go spend time with his family. But, yeah, I don't expect. I would be surprised if Kevin Love's with the Jazz next year, but I'm not sure I'm like waiting on that news any minute. I'm not like sitting by my computer for the Kevin Love buyout because, A, it's not that important. But along those lines, I did tweet this out, and let's quickly run through it because it has to do with both Kevin Love and Jaden Springer. The Jazz's roster at the moment does sit at 15 players.
Yes.
Which is the max you can have. Now, in the offseason, you actually can carry like 23 because I think it's 20 players on contracts and then 3 two-way guys.
Yeah.
Right now, here's what the Jazz's roster looks like. And we'll just kind of go, this is not a depth chart, but just kind of a loose understanding of what the roster looks like. Point guards right now. Here are the 3. Keonte George, Isaiah Collier, Walter Clayton. Walt Clayton.
Yeah.
Shooting guards, Bryce Sensabaugh, Ace Bailey, depending on what position you think he plays, he could be in any one of these.
Yes.
Ace Bailey, Svi Mikhailuk. Small forwards, Lowry Markkinen, Cody Williams, Kyle Anderson. Again, Kyle Anderson and Lowry Markkinen could be 2s. They could be 4s. I mean, Lowry doesn't play 2. But power forwards, Kyle Filipowski, Taylor Hendricks, KJ Martin.
As of now.
And then centers, Walker Kessler, Yusuf Nurkic, and Kevin Love.
Yes.
So we will see. If, KJ Martin gets waived or Kevin Love gets bought out, that would drop the Jazz to 13. You do have to carry 13. And then 2 of the Jazz's 3 two-way deals have been signed already, and that's Elijah Harkless, who was on a 2-year two-way deal from last year, and then R.J. Lewis, who did not get to play in Summer League, unfortunately, because of the knee injury.
Yep.
John Tonji remains unsigned,
yes,
who had a really good debut and then a horrendous second game in Las Vegas. So you kind of saw both worlds.
Yeah. So speaking of that, we can transition. As you mentioned, we didn't record last week, so we were unable to sort of put a cap on Summer League. We didn't talk about the last 3 games, which were the Jazz lost to the Spurs 93-91. That was a crazy game, especially the end of it. Then the Jazz beat the Wizards 86-76, and Jazz last game consolation or was whatever the word for a game. They got the extra game against the Bulls, 105-92. And then after all that, averaging about 30 points, 8 rebounds a game, Kyle Filipowski was named the Vegas Summer League MVP.
Kyle Filipowski is designed specifically. By the way, I did not get my bingo board.
Oh.
And the middle one should always be Jazz player wins MVP, right? Yeah. Like, A, that is the best award. You win, or the team wins the championship game.
Yep.
And that should be auto bingo. That was my fault. I do a bingo, and I didn't put that in the middle, and I should have. So we did not get there. But Kyle Filipowski wins MVP, 29.3 points per game, 8 rebounds, shoots the cover off the ball.
Yes.
He is particularly designed to dominate Summer League.
Yes.
Right? Super skilled 7-footer going up against a bunch of dudes who don't know how to combat that. Like, generally the bigs in the Summer League are either guys who are not good enough to be there and are like kind of borderline NBA players, and like Sanogo, who played for the Jazz. It's like a pretty good center. He actually played pretty well. And like in the past, you remember like Diamond Stone and these guys who have come through, and like there's some okay players. They are almost exclusively European.
Yes.
Going to play, I should say, in Europe, not European guys, but will play in Europe or play overseas somewhere. Or rookies. Well, Flip should torch rookies because he's in his second year and he's so skilled. And he should torch non-NBA guys because Flip's a legit NBA guy.
Yep.
You know? So it is kind of designed for him to fill a very specific spot. But man, Flip is really good. Kyle Filipowski is just a really, really good basketball player.
Yeah.
And I don't want to dismiss what we saw just because it is a little bit designed for him to play well. Like, at some point, the Jazz are going to have to decide. And I kind of offended Will Hardy last year when I asked him this question. I was like, how much are you guys going to invest in this guy? Because, like, at some point, there's really something here. And I said, when did you guys make the decision? I asked Will probably in February or March or something. Like, when did you guys decide that, like, Flip was worth this extra attention? And Will was like, well, as soon as they're on our roster, I invest in everybody. Like, I care about all these guys making it. And that's true. But also, like, you do run plays for guys. You design things for guys.
Yeah.
This entire Summer League at one point basically ended up being designed for Kyle Filipowski. Like, the first play of the game was always a Flip 3. I was like, yeah, you designed that. You drew that up so Flip can be featured over Isaiah or Cody or Ace or whatever it was. So you do start to make some of those decisions.
Yeah.
And I'll be curious what the Jazz decide to do with Kyle Filipowski, because among young players on the Jazz roster, Keonte George, Isaiah Collier, Walt Clayton, Bryce Sensabaugh, Ace Bailey, Cody Williams, Walker Kessler. Maybe we take Walker out of the conversation. Probably should. Kyle Filipowski's probably shown more than anybody.
Yeah.
So when do you decide that, like, ooh, we should probably start figuring out how to make that work?
Yeah.
You know, or do you not? And what? And if you don't, why not?
Mm-hmm. And I, like, of the young core, like you just mentioned, I think that a big thing for him is consistency. Like, don't get me wrong, he's not the perfect player. Like, he has some bad turnovers, and like sometimes he has
Bad defensive player.
Yeah, bad defensive player, streaky from three at times. But with that said, like, who would you say gives you more consistent production, Kyle Filipowski or Keonte George?
Obviously, Flip.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
what Flip does matters more.
Yeah. So I think it is a very valid discussion. What are they going to do with him? And I think we prefaced 2 weeks ago like what we think the Jazz lineup could be. We sort of gave a mock starting lineup, and we had Filipowski at the 4. I feel like in his rookie year he played a lot of 5. He had 72 games played, 27 starts only. So I feel like a lot of times he was back up 5, or maybe he did start at the 5. If he slides into the 4, I think it will benefit him a lot, because he'll have a stronger defensive-minded center behind him. It will be interesting how the Jazz sort of do that, because that is a really big 4 and a 5. But yeah, no, I'm really excited for Flip's sophomore year. I think that, like you said, he was designed to dominate the summer league, just how it's set up. With that said, maybe not more impressive, but what I took away more from it was Cody Williams' performance, especially those last couple games. He was by far the best player for the Jazz the last 2 games of summer league. What did you like? What did you not like from Cody?
So what I didn't like is it still took him some time until the second half before he started like dialing in.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the Jazz's coaches' complaints about, and I'll specifically say Scott Morrison in Salt Lake, was like, we don't want to have to wake up Walt Clayton to play hard. Like, it was cool that he hit all these big shots in the fourth quarter, but like hit a big shot in the first quarter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and Cody, other than, I think it was the second to last game, maybe it was even the last game, he was just like dynamic throughout. He's really good throughout. A lot of times Cody would be like 0 for 5 or 1 of 6 in the first half and then have an awesome second half. It's just like, Cody, just like buy in, dude. Like, you guys, this is your audition. You're auditioning for Austin Ainge right now. He didn't draft you, dude. Like, you got to step up and play. And I just say that as like a person who's like wants every young person here to make as much money as possible and do well. I'm not rooting for the Jazz. I don't care. But like, Cody, this is like, the opportunity's there for you. Like, don't lose this. And you're really good. I've always believed Cody Williams is really good. I thought he was really good before the draft, and I didn't really sell my stock on Cody Williams at any point last year. So when he bought in and was aggressive and getting downhill and making shots and like all the weird Cody Williams stuff was there. And Cody Williams is a weird player. He is like kind of a weird design player. Like, if you could go back and listen to our pre-draft stuff on him, which you can, it's all on podcast. It's like, he makes all these weird hook shots and like running floaters, and like he has a weird array of finishes around the basket that aren't like traditional what you see guys. And it was like the funkiness to his game that I kind of was drawn to. It's like, this is different than most players. He's slithery. He's not, quick first step guy. And sometimes he disappears, and that's not good. But like, then when he takes over, it's like, whoa, where's this guy been? So I just think the fact that he was taking 10 threes a game and wasn't just like, well, I'll acquiesce. Yeah. Like, that was Cody's biggest issue, and it probably has been throughout his whole career. I'll acquiesce to the players around me, even if they're not better than I am.
Yeah.
He realized that these guys were not better than he was, and he took over, and I think that was the strength. And then every game, like, one of the boxes on my bingo square that he actually didn't check was 2 blocks, 2 steals, 2 made threes. I didn't put that for anybody else because Cody actually is capable of doing that.
Yep.
Like, Flip probably could do it. I don't think ever got close. Taylor Hendricks obviously isn't playing, but didn't do it. Like, Isaiah's not going to hit 2 threes in a game. Is the truth. He's not going to block 2 shots either. Like, Cody's ability to fill in a little bit of everywhere, depending on what you need, is really valuable. Yeah. And I think we actually saw some of that as well.
Yeah. No, Cody Williams was the biggest takeaway for me. But the one thing that I'm worried about is specifically with him, like these last 2 games, like not having Flip out there, for example. Like, were these just like, okay, I'm like maybe the only
guy,
rotation guy like playing right now. But I hope that he can take this aggressiveness and this like willingness to get to spots, because I feel like a lot of last year was like not just like he wasn't strong enough to do it, but he was also like that combined with being uber passive. I really hope he takes some of this aggressiveness, some of this like, okay, let me get a shot now to the regular season. And if he does, like, again, I did not sell any of my Cody Williams stock either. I think that like do-it-all forwards are as prevalent as they ever are
Yeah, they're
in
valuable.
the NBA. So, that was one of the biggest things for me. And then, like you said, John Tonji debut was awesome. He had 16 points. And then, like in the close game, 4 points, 1 for 9 shooting. I do still expect him to be with the Jazz.
I think he'll get a two-way.
Yeah.
I think he'll get that third two-way.
Yeah.
Because, it's not official, but it sounds like Oscar Tshiebwe's going to sign overseas.
Okay.
That just seems like where it's headed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think Cody would benefit from honestly being like the last guy in the Jazz's rotation, in all honesty. I think he probably, if you're talking about playing 9 or 10 guys, I think Cody's probably 9 or 10. And that's not a bad thing because
No.
I actually still don't think physically he's there.
Yeah.
Like that was the other thing I still noticed is like he does look bigger.
Yep.
He does look stronger. He still gets pushed off his spots. He still has a hard time getting places on the floor, but he uses his length really well. So he's going to need another year before physically he's like one of the guys. Just because he's not a man yet, and I think that will get there for him. I think he's going to get bigger and stronger, and that's going to benefit him. But he could really benefit from like being a guy who plays in some weird lineups that actually like need him to score a little bit, where maybe he does need to be the guy, and you can turn to him as opposed to just like every 12th possession you can take a corner three and that's it.
Yes.
So there might be some situations where he's on the floor with guys like Taylor Hendricks, who's not a shot creator, and Isaiah Collier, who's not a shot maker. And maybe like a Svi Mikhailiuk, who's just a spot-up shooter or whatever. And some of these weird, not that I expect Svi to be in the rotation, but like some of these weird spots, Nurkic is not a shot creator, where it's like, okay, Cody's got to do something. Cody's got to dribble a little bit. Now, he's not going to do that as your sixth man, and he's not going to do it as your seventh man, but like you get a little bit further down, you need a little shot creation from a guy, and I think that's where he might be beneficial.
One more thing I want to ask you about than anything else that you want to talk about from Summer League. What did you think about Isaiah Collier? To me, he was kind of all over the place with his performances. For example, against the Spurs, he had 12 points, 12 assists. He shot 5 for 17 in that game. And then the next one, he had 17 points, a little bit better shooting, but then only 3 assists. Sort of felt like last year with Isaiah Collier, it was like, okay, he's going to get you 6 to 14 points a game, and he's going to get you 6+ assists. And I was like, what's going to happen every game? It's like, I didn't really know what to expect night to night from Isaiah Collier.
His shooting was terrible.
Yeah.
Even including his free throws, he was below 50% from the free throw line, which is really bad. He does need a good big guy, which I think is probably, some of these guys, Jeremiah Fears, for example, was, why he was drafted is because he can get to the paint anytime he wants. And so can Isaiah, because you actually put spacing around him and it's better. And spacing in the NBA, a regular season game, is better than the spacing he was getting in the Summer League. And people are focusing in on him because he has a target on his back because he almost made all rookie team.
Yep.
So in that sense, like he kind of dealt with some difficulty there. But I do think he needs a big guy. I do think he needs somebody to set a screen for him to get downhill. And Walker Kessler's really good at that. So he will look better in the regular season than he does. But, to bring this back to a flip conversation, which is interesting, like what are you good at and does it matter is a huge thing that we miss in the NBA, and we misdiagnose players in the draft, et cetera. And look, they didn't misdiagnose it. Collier fell to 29 for a reason.
Yeah.
They really badly misdiagnosed it with Kyle Filipowski. It's like, the things he does as a 7-footer really matter. Like reading the game, making shots, making good passes, finishing around the rim are really valuable for 7-footers.
Yeah.
And people are like, he's a good ball handler, and that doesn't matter. You're like, that doesn't really matter that much. But he does so many other things. Yeah, a 7-footer who only dribbles and goes behind the back is Pokashevsky. You remember? And he's out of the league. That didn't matter. But the flip did other things that really matter. Some of the things Isaiah does, I don't know if they actually matter that much. It's why I didn't like Jeremiah Fears.
Yeah.
It's why I said, don't draft Jeremiah Fears if you have Isaiah Collier, because I think they're the same player. And that's paint touches matter. Getting 2 feet into the paint matters. Collapsing a defense can matter some. But if they can foul you and you're going to shoot for 50% from the free throw line, then it doesn't matter that you get into the paint because you're not finishing at a high enough level. And unless you're, Kyrie with the package to finish there, it doesn't matter. And guess what? If Kyrie wasn't a 40% three-point shooter, he wouldn't be a good player. No one would care. So I worry a little bit that the things that Isaiah is good at don't matter in today's NBA.
Yeah.
And that might be part of the problem. It's why I'm not a big De'Aaron Fox fan. Like, the things he's good at are not as important as guys who do a little bit less, but it matters more. Like, it's why there's a real chance Walt Clayton is the Jazz's starting point guard by game 30, because the things he does really matter. Like, he's a good three-point shooter. He makes enough good passes. I have Keonte George, we talked about this 2 weeks ago, kind of penciled in as the Jazz's starting point guard because his shot making matters. Now the shots have to go in. Yes. And if Walt shoots the 3 better and his shots go in at a higher rate than Keonte, Waltz just should be the guy.
Yep.
And you should invest in him today and just run with it and say, well, sorry, Keonte, you had 2 years to prove it. And Isaiah, you've had a year to prove it. And you didn't show at any point you've been able to shoot. So why? Well, yeah, we're just going to go with Walt.
Yeah.
I could really see that happening.
Adding on to that, I think that not just like, of course, what you say, the matter, like that matters, no pun intended. But I also think that specifically with Isaiah, not necessarily that his weaknesses outweigh his positives, but I think that other teams can like make his positives not matter if they just foul him. Like you said, put him at the free throw line. Then it's like, if he's at the free throw line, or if you are guarding him inside the key when he's at the 3-point line, then it's like his entire game not necessarily goes out the window, but it's harder for him to do what he's good at.
Yeah.
So,
and Chris Dunn, again, it was not a similar player necessarily to Isaiah Collier, but had similar flaws offensively.
Yes.
Can't shoot. At least if he was wide open, he would shoot 40%.
Yep.
If he was wide open. And even then it ruined your entire offense because the other team said, fine, you're only going to take 3 a game.
Yeah.
Chris Dunn, you could look back. I bet you he never took 7 threes in a Jazz uniform. I'd be surprised if he ever did. I got to argue with some Jazz fans who were like, he is a shooter because he shoots 40% from three. It's like, no, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
There's the threat of shooting and guys who make open shots. And Isaiah Collier has to not just make open shots, which he doesn't yet. He also has to be a threat to shoot, which collapses or which expands the defense and then opens things up for everybody else. And the question for Flip again coming out of this whole thing is like, is there a point where he's so good that the things he does matter enough that the Jazz are like, well, yeah, Lowry's expendable? I think Lowry's already a little bit expendable just because of the Jazz's timeline. Could Flip being better than expected expedite that process where Flip comes in and is the starting power forward and Lowry's at the 3 and Flip's averaging 18 points a game next year in the John Collins role, and you just say, oh, yeah, you just move off of Lowry now.
Yeah.
And you would love to get top dollar for him, but maybe you can't. And Lowry rebuilds his value somewhat from last year and shoots better.
Yes.
And you move on, and then you invest in Flip and whoever you want at the 3.
I can see that because Phillip and Lowry are far from like the same person, but there's enough similarities there, and also like Flip projects to be a better passer than Lowry is.
Yeah,
and it's just like
the things he does might matter a little bit more, even if he never becomes the type of 3-point shooter.
Absolutely.
And then this whole question also may hinge on how good Taylor Hendricks is when he comes back and how he can play. And other little bit of news: Taylor Hendricks and Andalucia right now playing 3-on-3 with Bryce Sensabaugh and a bunch of NBA guys. Just good to see him back on the court.
Absolutely.
Doesn't seem like he's generating a lot of highlights compared to some of the other guys, but he's probably doing a lot of stationary 3-point shooting.
Yeah.
So, anyways, cool to have Taylor back out on the court. Good for him. I'm sure that's less than a year from that injury. I mean, that was
crazy.
It's a lot less than a year because that happened, November? It was like the 3rd game of the season, so it was really early November. So good for him to be back out there, and that should be a good sign for his return to the court.
All right. Anything else from Summer League?
Nope, I think that's it.
Okay.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll get your mailbag. Stick around. More Jazz Notes coming up next. Welcome back to the Jazz Notes podcast. Ben Anderson, Chandler Holt. All right, let's get to the mailbag. Find us on Twitter at Ben's Hoops, see Holt Sports, same place at Blue Sky. I always send out a prompt at about 11 o'clock on Monday, and then you have an hour to send them in, or as long as it takes to record the podcast. Let's start with Blue Sky. Penty Pispa says, I'm guessing Finnish. I could be wrong, but you see the T's together like that. And he asks about Lowry. He says, will Kyle Filipowski, kind of funny, we were just talking about this, will Kyle Filipowski make Lowry Markkanen expendable? Both are great on offense, not so great on defense, at least huge savings in salary. Who should the Jazz target if they do try to trade Lowry? The nice thing is Lowry is a good value piece. Like that actually is the real value, is that, his $40 million salary, which actually may not be a benefit in all honesty at this point, but Lowry's a good player, and you could bring back young pieces or draft picks or whatever to start to mold the team now into a shape. And if Flip is good enough, you could start to not build around him, but build with him in mind.
Yes.
Build with him as a piece that is going to be something you invest in and go forward with. Yes, he is flawed enough defensively. I truly think because Flip is flawed enough defensively, he probably projects as the 6th man going forward. Okay. I think his comp is Naz Reid. Okay. And I've said that a few times, but like Bobby Portis, Naz Reid, it is valuable to have your 3rd big be a guy who comes in and makes shots and can handle a pretty reasonable load offensively and gives everyone else a break. Yeah. So I know I've got him penciled in as a starting power forward. That's because Taylor's not healthy right now, and we've got another question about Taylor coming up here in a second. But that's kind of why I've got him there. And you know what? Talking about what players do being valuable, truthfully, what Taylor does might even be more valuable than what Kyle Filipowski does, even though he's not as good a player right now as Flip is. Yeah. But he's a good rim protector. He's just a good switchy defender. At least he showed some signs of being able to do that, and it's where his athleticism coming back is going to be so critical for him. And he did shoot 37% from three his first year, which is better than Flip shot.
Yeah.
So actually, he might do less, but the things he does might matter more than even Flip, which might make him your starting power forward, which does allow Flip to come off the bench and erases some of his flaws because no one really talks about how bad of a defender Naz Reid is.
Yeah.
Or even Obi Toppin, was just on a Pacers team that made the finals, and if you go back and watch his defensive lowlights, it's shocking.
Mm-hmm.
But he was valuable because he was coming off the bench and playing against other bench guys. And Bobby Portis is not a perfect player, but was critical to a team winning the finals in Milwaukee. So I do think Flip's best role going forward is still probably as a really high-level six-man in the NBA.
I don't think that Flip's production would impact yes or no on a Lowry trade. I think it would impact what the Jazz are looking for in a Lowry trade. If Flip comes out and he's just small regression, he's goes from what did he average last year? Last year he averaged 9 and 6, about 10 and 6. If he jumps up to 13 and 8, then I think it's okay, maybe the Jazz would still look for a bunch of young players and assets. But if Kyle Filipowski comes out and he's an 18 and 9 guy, then it's okay, maybe we could do Lowry and a couple picks to get a buy now thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't think that just how Flip plays would necessarily, even though there are some similarities there, what the Jazz do with Lowry, I think it would be more of what they're looking to get back.
Agreed. Yeah. I don't think he's going to replace Lowry.
Yes.
And I know we kind of talked about that a little bit. That's not necessarily what I mean.
Yeah.
But just as far as you're investing in a big guy who can do some shooting and is flawed elsewhere, there's some similarities there that might change how you approach what you want back from a Lowry trade. All right, let's go back to that Taylor Hendricks question then, and that's from Gets It on Blue Sky. And he says, how good is Taylor Hendricks going to be this season? I just think you're going to take it so slow with Taylor. Again, the Swish Cultures, which is the Twitter account that's tweeting out a lot of these videos from the NBA Players Association. They've organized this run overseas, and Bryce Sensabaugh's there, and Taylor's there, and a bunch of NBA guys are there. And it's not stars, but it's Jay Huff and a bunch of dudes. Just kind of getting some run, which I think is cool and good for those guys to be involved and cool for Taylor to be over there. I just don't expect Taylor to be good right away. And it's important to remember, Taylor, I thought, had some really good flashes to begin last season. He only played 3 games. He didn't actually shoot the ball well at all, but looked a little bit more of a complete player. Taylor still had a long road ahead of him, even had he stayed perfectly healthy before he was going to be a good NBA player. So he's probably regressed from that because now he's got to get over the mental hurdle of my leg broken half in a game.
Yeah.
And then I have to get back to actually being on the court and catching back up to speed with all this. So it's going to be a brutally long process. He should be playing a lot. He should be on the floor as much as possible this year. But I do think the Jazz are going to bring him along with with slow expectations.
This is totally different situations here, but I think there are some things you can sort of take away from this. The Paul George injury back in 2014. The year after, granted he was available to play at the very end of the year, but he played in 6 games. He dropped from 36 minutes the year before to 15 minutes. And then his three-point shooting also jumped from 36% to 41%. So it's he's going to play a lot less minutes. He probably will sit games even if he's feeling okay just to, get some extra rest. And then his game will probably be a lot more stationary and less relied on athleticism.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think you're totally right. That's kind of what was exciting about Taylor's first 3 games of last season. We're talking about 3 games, but he was really switchy on the perimeter and getting poke away steals, and he averaged 1.7 steals per game and 1.3 blocks, and it was okay, this guy's getting 3 stocks a game. That's really big.
Yeah.
And then he played 3 games that didn't translate all that much. But if Taylor can go back to his rookie season where he averaged 7.3 points, 4.6 rebounds, he played 40 games, he started 23 games, he played 21 minutes a night, shot 45% from the floor, shot 38% from 3, shot 79% from the free throw line. I think he would just take that.
Oh, yeah.
In all honesty. And ideally more than 40 games. But if the Jazz are hey, Taylor can't play back-to-backs, that eliminates 10 games right off the bat, and then everyone misses another 10 games here and there, that takes you down to 60 games really quickly. Yeah. So if he played 60 games, 20 minutes a night, and averaged 7 and 5, it's probably good for his return.
Yes.
And especially if the shooting percentages are there, because then you're basically starting next year as a sophomore season again.
Yeah.
And it's the last year of his rookie deal, but, and I hate to say this because this stinks for Taylor, but it's remember Steph Curry The Warriors became the Warriors because Steph Curry signed such a small contract off of his rookie deal because his ankles were so bad. People were like, his ankles are never going to be healthy. So he took this huge discount, and they were able to go out and trade for Andre Iguodala and sign all these players. And they built this dynasty, and then he turned into this great player on this relatively small contract. It wasn't a full max deal. Like, there's a chance that Taylor Hendricks' injury solves some of the Jazz's potential financial future problems because you sign him to a 4-year deal or whatever coming off of his injury, and he turns into a good player, a high-level number 9 overall pick on a smaller contract, and then you can have all these guys kind of together. Not that he's going to turn into Steph Curry, but if he's a starter and he's making injury risk money, there's some value there. So we'll see with Taylor. I just hope he comes back healthy, and again, he's so charismatic and funny to talk to and really enjoyable and came out of his shell. It's been nice to see. And then one more question quickly on Blue Sky from Sammy Paradise. I read the Lakers are looking to clear cap space for the free agency of 2027. Could you see that benefiting the Jazz because they own the Lakers' 2027 top 4 protected pick? Yeah, I mean, the nice thing is, like, all this nonsense with, like, skinny Luka or LeBron is unhappy with the Lakers because of Luka and doesn't feel, like he's been involved enough and wants to win but may not win. This is all good for the Jazz, right? You want a really chaotic, toxic locker room with the Lakers this summer.
Yes.
That makes it so bad that they go into like a full rebuild with Luka. They're not going to get rid of Luka, but with Luka in 2026, 2027, and they just don't quite get to a point where it matters. And they're, I don't think anyone ever expected that to be a number 5 overall pick because it's top 4 protected, but you kind of hoped if you were a Jazz fan, like maybe that's a second lottery pick, or maybe that's just a lottery pick the first year you make the playoffs.
Yes.
And I still think all this chaos with the Lakers and the fact that they don't have a lot of future draft picks, and yes, they'll have a little bit of money to spend, but like I don't expect them to be awesome other than they have Luka. That could be a relatively valuable pick.
Yeah, no, definitely. One thing I will say is, talking about skinny Luka, never trust any pictures or videos in an empty gym in July in the NBA.
Right. Yeah. He could put weight on really quickly again. And again, I just don't. Fat Luka made the finals. Like, I don't care about skinny Luka. Like, that doesn't really matter to me because I actually think Luka's biggest issue is, does he like playing in LA?
Yeah.
Because he loved playing in Dallas. He loved being in the shadow of Dirk, which not a lot of people do. A lot of people are now like, hey, you're the heir apparent to LeBron. That's not an easy job.
No.
That's not a job you should want.
No.
Even if you are as good as Luka is, and Luka's awesome. Some people are better being the heir apparent to Dirk Nowitzki than they are LeBron James in Los Angeles.
Yes.
And Dallas, despite the fact that it's like the 4th biggest market in the country, is not a major all eyes on you sports market. In fact, the Mavericks aren't even the second biggest, or aren't even the biggest team in their own city.
Yeah.
That's always going to be the Cowboys. Yeah. That's always going to be the number one thing on every sports radio station. Even when the Mavericks are making the finals, it's Cowboys first and and the Dallas Mavericks second.
Yes.
In LA, that's not the case.
No.
It is the Lakers, the Lakers, the Lakers. They are the biggest story, and Luka's got to carry that mantle. So you're just rooting for chaos there. Yeah. If you're a Jazz fan and you're worried about that 2027 pick.
And the lucky thing is, Los Angeles, especially in like the 2020s, the LeBron era, if you want to call it, of Los Angeles, it's been a lot of chaos.
Yeah.
So,
and it will continue to be.
Yes. Okay. Over to X.
Yep.
Okay. First up from Sam. You guys probably don't know, but any word on a sidewalk sale this year? I need a $10 Jordan Clarkson jersey for the return. Also, is Kevin Love going to stay on the roster for the year, or at least to start the season?
Again, I don't think Kevin Love will be here, but I don't think like that's a final decision.
Yeah.
It may depend on if the Jazz can save money, and if you're not going to save money from him, he's probably okay being holding on to him and then trying to trade him midseason. Like there could be a team mid-year that says like, yeah, we could use a conceivable guy who could play 5 minutes, 10 minutes here in a pinch with some playoff experience. So if he was on the team, I wouldn't be completely surprised, shocked, but I don't expect him to be. I think somebody will find a desire to have him all year long. And his camp probably does want to as well.
Yes.
And he doesn't need the money. He's made so much money in his career. He may not necessarily need to be around all that long. And then sidewalk sale, there are places like TJ Maxx, not to give anyone free pub, that like randomly will have an influx of Jazz jerseys every once in a while that like clearly didn't get bought. Like all the yellow jerseys were there for a while. Randomly, I was there one time. And you keep an eye on that. And yes, that's like where the Jordan Clarkson jerseys are probably going to end up. Yeah. But you know what you should do? Get a Jordan Clarkson Knicks jersey.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Because the Knicks have great jerseys, and Jordan Clarkson's a cool guy.
And I feel like that's a non-Jazz jersey you can walk around Salt Lake with and get some compliments.
Proudly. Yeah, proudly.
All right, next up from Scott Ashlad Johnson. How are season ticket sales going? I've seen way more ads for them, what feels like months of it now, despite probably less interest than ever in attending a game. Competing for dollars with a projected playoff bubble hockey team can't help demand for a projected NBA worst team.
A couple of interesting things there. First of all, my understanding is the hockey season ticket holders and the NBA season ticket holders are totally different groups of people. There's basically zero crossover.
Yeah.
So I actually don't think hockey's rise and fall is going to change all that much of the interest of Jazz fans.
Okay.
Apparently, it's just two totally different groups, which is honestly better.
Yes.
Right? You don't want one to be like, well, I ate there, so you don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul, essentially. So if you have two different groups that want to support the team regardless, I think that's good. I had heard on the radio side that there was an expectation that season tickets would drop like 10% or something. I do wonder specifically if getting Ace Bailey changes that a little bit. If you had the number one pick, Jazz's season tickets would have gone up. If they had gotten Cooper Flagg, they would have gotten more season ticket sales from last year.
Yeah.
I do wonder if that's kind of going to be hurt because Ace only played 2 games, and they were actually at the Huntsman Center, so they weren't even at Delta Center where like the typical fans would have showed up, and they still showed up very well. Huntsman Center sold well for the summer league games. Excuse me, but I wonder if had they gotten more opportunity to see them, that maybe there would have been more excitement had Ace had a 30-point game in summer league that might have sold some tickets.
I'm not trying to sell any of you guys on buying season tickets,
It's
but
not our job.
but I will just say that, especially after drafting Ace Bailey and then seeing summer league, I would agree with Austin Ainge that like this year is going to be more fun Jazz basketball.
Yeah, and I think they're going to win more games than they did last year. I still, I know all the gambling sites have the Jazz at like 17.5 or 18.5. I'm like, it's hard to accidentally win that much. Now, the Wizards kind of truthfully won that many games last year, and they did some tanking, but they won the last game of the season on a buzzer beater because they were trying to win until the very last minute, and they still only won 18 games, and the Jazz won 17.
Yeah.
I don't think the Jazz are going to win 30.
Yeah.
But you get rid of John Collins, you get rid of Colin Sexton, you get some injuries. Don't know how long Lowry's going to be on the roster during the season. Like, maybe they only win 19, but I still think it's probably more than 17.
Yeah. All right. Next up from Positive Jazz guy, Nate Dogg. If you had to guess how many games this season does Ace start/play, what would you guess his stats will be, points/rebounds? Also, what's one thing Jazz fans don't know about Ace?
He's into yo-yoing.
Okay.
So that's like an Ace thing. He's a yo-yo guy. And at some point, I will share a personal story about that. And it's not like a crazy story, but at some point. Because I think you will see a video of him at some point with a yo-yo.
Okay.
If you go to Jazz games. Yeah. And that's probably more than I should even be saying. But it's not like who cares? It's a yo-yo.
Yeah.
But he's like into yo-yoing. He's like a yo-yo guy, which is funny.
Yeah.
He's just a kid.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He's still just a kid.
Yes.
If I had to guess how many games does he start/play? Play 60?
Okay.
65?
I was going to say 65, 70.
And it's worth noting that I think over the last 2 years, Isaiah Collier and Keonte George have played the most minutes for the Jazz. And I don't mean combined. Cumulative, it is Keonte.
Yes.
But Isaiah, I think, played the second most last year.
Okay.
So the Jazz are not afraid to load up their rookies with minutes, especially the rookies that they feel like can play early. And I actually kind of think Ace is going to be able to play.
Yes.
Like, I think he's going to be able to contribute early. And that doesn't mean he's going to help you win, but I think he will be able to hold his own for stretches. So I bet he plays, about 65. He's probably 20 to 25 minutes a night.
Yeah.
And because of just who he is, like he's a bucket and gets some offensive rebounds, like 11 and 5.
Okay.
Like 11 points, 5 rebounds, 11 points, 4 rebounds.
I would say
0 assists. No, I'm just kidding. But I'd like to see if I were a Jazz fan, I want to see 2 assists a game. That would be really exciting if you were a Jazz fan, because that means he's really moving the ball.
Yeah.
2 assists is hard.
Maybe I'm an optimist. I would put him at 14 points.
That'd be really good.
Yeah. And then 5 rebounds. I would say that's.
What did G.G. Jackson do his first year?
Yeah. While you do this, something I want to bring up. Keonte George, right? Coming in as a prospect. Ace Bailey is, of course, more hyped.
1,000 times better.
Yeah. But Keonte had, he played really well in the summer league, and then, the Jazz were like, oh, we might really have something here with the, 15th, 14th pick. And he played 75 games his rookie year, started 44, 27 minutes a night.
Yeah. What do you average?
13 points.
Yeah, it was good. G.G. Jackson, who is kind of a comp to Ace in more ways than one.
Yeah.
Other than G.G. Jackson fell to the second round, but he was the number 1 overall recruit.
Yep.
Went to a terrible situation at South Carolina. Where did he play his college basketball? South Carolina. Kind of questions about, like, does he like basketball? Where does he want to be? Why is he not bought in more? His rookie season with the Grizzlies. Now, remember, this was the Grizzlies' disaster year 2 years ago where everybody was hurt. They got a lottery pick. That's not how they ended up with him. He was a second-round over pick, but he played a whole lot. He averaged 14.5 points, 4 rebounds, and an assist, and played 48 games and played 25 minutes a night. There's a chance that, that's how Ace gets to 14 minutes a night. Like, his raw skills should translate. And when he has better players around him, it could make life easier.
But yeah, I would think that would be kind of similar. Keonte George's like 70. I don't like 75 is a lot of games for a rookie year, but like maybe 65, 70 games played, and then he starts like 45 to 55 of them. Because I'm sure at some point he will come off the bench, whether it's like a back-to-back or like rough stretch, like bring him off the bench, see how he feels,
stretch.
Yeah.
Jazz kind of needed Keonte. They had Colin Sexton and they had Jordan Clarkson, but they kind of needed guards, right? It was post Mike Conley, so they did need a third guard. I mentioned kind of the Jazz's 15-man roster right now. The hard part is, like, there are probably some reasons. There are enough bodies that you don't necessarily have to play him.
Yeah.
Because, like, we don't know if Ace is a 2 or a 3. Probably he's going to play a little bit of both. I think he does play on the perimeter. I don't think you're lining him up to play down low yet. Even in Summer League, he was mostly on the perimeter. But, like, okay, Bryce can play in front of him. Walt Clayton can play 2. Keonte can play the 2. Lowry can play the 3. Cody can play the 3. Kyle Anderson could play the 3. Like, that's the issue. There's enough bodies in front of him that there may not, other than the Jazz want to play him a lot, there may not be a need to play him.
Yeah.
So if at some point he is drowning, you can take him out. And there was honestly Keontae's first year, like, it was just hard to find bodies to play over him, even if he was playing poorly.
That's very true. All right, next up, speaking of, from Jazz Time Jones, what do extensions look like for Keonte, Bryce, Taylor Hendricks, assuming they are successful role players this year? 6th to 7th man type success heading into the next offseason.
Those are good questions. And you got to extend all of them. And you probably, the truth is, you probably won't extend all of them.
Yeah.
Take note of what the Jazz are doing right now with Walker Kessler.
Yes.
There's a real chance the Jazz just let all these guys go to restricted free agency, and that's clearly in vogue right now in the NBA because Josh Giddey is unsigned. Jonathan Kuminga is unsigned. Who's the guard in Philadelphia that they just acquired from Dallas that's unsigned? Like, that was with the Knicks forever.
Quentin Grimes.
Quentin Grimes is unsigned. Like, teams are doing this. Teams are letting players go out and hit restricted free agency and saying, like, if you can't find the money, why are we going to pay you? Why are we going to overpay you? It's so hard right now to have a responsible salary cap and salary sheet that, like, we're not going to overpay you just to overpay you. So if the Jazz aren't paying Walker, who's obvious, like, a future member of the Jazz, I don't know if any of these guys get contract extensions unless it's wildly beneficial.
Yes.
So, like, Taylor Hendricks might say,
I was just about to say that.
It's better for me to sign a contract next offseason, even if I have like a 7 and 4 year, like we just talked about, 7 points, 4 rebounds.
Yeah.
Just like, I just want to make sure I'm in the NBA for 4 more years. So I'm going to sign a 4-year, $30 million deal.
Yeah.
$32 million. It's only $8 million a year, but, like, that's $30 million I've guaranteed myself that I don't know. What if something else happens and I'm not in the league?
I was going to say, unless like Taylor comes out and it's just like there's no confidence in his leg and he's like unplayable, I would bet that he is a player that signs an early extension.
I could see that.
Yeah. But I totally agree with you with Keonte and Bryce.
Like, unless you're getting a crazy discount, there's no reason to sign guys anymore in today's NBA, especially on the rookie deals. And the weird thing is NBA teams just started handing them out. And they probably shouldn't have. It got a little irresponsible, and then players started to expect it. And then it was like, now we're looking like, what's wrong with Jonathan Kuminga? Or what's wrong with Josh Giddey? And, like, those players are flawed, obviously, as is Quentin Grimes. Like, we're talking about either small sample sizes or players that have flaws or haven't fit in at their current spot. I just think we're going to see more of this going forward. More guys hitting restricted free agency. And then teams saying, go find your money. So, like, Keonte might be $7 million a year. Like, are people kicking down the door on Keonte? Now, if he averages 19 points a game this season and plays a lot better, it actually might hurt Keonte because then the Jazz have no reason to pay him early.
Yes.
Because a guy who averages 19 points a game on a team that wins 20 games isn't that valuable.
Yeah. Proven by Colin Sexton.
Yeah, exactly right. So the Jazz may just wait for him to hit. There may just be, if they play poorly and they're willing to sign at a discount, that might be the advantage for the Jazz. Otherwise, I think none of these guys sign contracts next year. That would be my guess.
I will say, like, of course, I am not by any means a guru in like contracts in the NBA, but from my understanding, it's kind of a win-win for both the team and the player. Because I think the Jazz somehow are saving money by not signing Walker Kessler early.
So, yeah, you have a cap hold, right?
Yes.
So if the Jazz were to sign Walker Kessler to a 4-year, $100 million deal, let's just say that, which is probably a little conservative.
Yeah.
But that means his actual salary number would just be $25 million next summer.
Yeah.
His cap hold next year is way small. Cap hold just means this is a player who's on your roster. You don't know what their contract is going to be, but he's on your roster. But it's like $8 million or something.
Yeah.
But it does sit there. It basically kind of eats up a spot of saying it's an $8 million player. I'm not sure exactly what the number is.
Yeah.
If the Jazz sign him, that jumps up to 25. That means you have 17 fewer $1 million to play with.
Yes.
It's why every team in the NBA wants Walker Kessler right now, because you trade for him. You don't pay him this summer. You can be the Lakers. You will have X amount of dollars in free agency, and then you sign him to bird rights, and bird rights allow you to go over the salary cap to retain your players.
Yes.
Celtics ran into this with Larry Bird, hence the name bird rights.
Yeah.
So it allows you to go over the salary cap, because it's a soft cap, to bring your player back.
Gotcha.
But that cap hold is really small for a player who's worth way more than that. That's why he's so valuable.
And then for the player, like it's sort of like a bet on yourself kind of thing. Like I'm going to go out and like if this other team really wants me, they're going to throw a bag at me. And then it's like, okay, the Jazz can match it, or I'm just maximizing my value in free agency regardless.
The hard part is teams don't throw money at restricted free agents because they know it's going to get matched.
Yeah.
And teams get burned by trying to sign restricted free agents too often. And honestly, what would be great for the NBA would be to get, or for NBA players, would be to get rid of restricted free agency altogether.
Yeah.
But that will never happen.
Yeah.
Because it's good for teams.
Yes.
So,
all right. Next up from Denny B. Karchner, how can the Jazz become a respectable defensive team? Well, I would say, first of all, they have guys who maybe aren't there yet, but like if they reach their ceiling, they can project to be a good defender, like Taylor Hendricks, even Ace Bailey, maybe Cody Williams puts on some weight. Those are all guys. Then you have Walker Kessler. So I think the Jazz have had that in the back of their mind, where like we have these guys who have the tools to be good defenders. But then also I feel like I don't have an example off the top of my head, but you could just bring in a guy who's sort of a culture/tone setter on that end.
I think you can actually get better defensively relatively quickly. I guess the question is, like, is Will Hardy a good defensive coach? We don't know yet. Some coaches are, like, defensive-minded guys.
Yes.
I'm not sure that's what Will's MO has been yet, because even Jamal Mosley goes into Orlando when they weren't good and instills a defensive culture right away. And I have not seen that from Will. I just don't think that's where Will's, like, going to cut his teeth. And look, Jamal Mosley's kind of fallen out of fashion in Orlando even. Might be the next coach fired if they underachieve this year.
Yeah.
But I do think you start at the rim and you move outward, which you've got Walker, which is great. And then, if Taylor's there, that's great. Or Ace or Cody can add something there. It's really beneficial. The difference, though, is I will be curious how many teams start to model their defense after what happened with OKC, which is let's have these guards who pick up at 70 feet, not 94 feet, but 70 feet. Yeah. And try and get a lot of steals and create easy offense that way and just are disruptive. And I wonder if that's where a guy like Elijah Harkless has some value. Yeah. He's like a super disruptive on-ball guy. So that would kind of be my wonder is like you go and find a couple of defensive specialists on the perimeter after you build at the rim out. And you've got a really good rim protector right now in Walker. I think he's going to be good.
Yeah. All right, last question from Connor Morris. Seems like Jazz fans expect Key's shooting splits to all go up 3/4%, but his best stats come with better players, and we just sent 3 away. Is the answer he just needs smarter shots? Will Ace and Lowry take more shots? And then, funny one at the end, which Jazz player would be most likely to be at a Coldplay concert?
Well, I don't know what you're trying to imply, so I'm not going to answer the last one. Not that many of them are married, I will say that. And I don't know if the young players are going to a Coldplay concert.
Yeah.
So none of them. Look, Keonte's shots just need to go in.
Yeah.
Like, you're right. Some of it is who you're playing next to. Your whole career as an NBA player can't be based on who you're playing next to.
Yeah,
You're not good enough. If that's the case, you're not good enough. And again, the guy I've compared him to a lot is Anthony Simons in, kind of his trajectory. And young player coming in, skill set, kind of a 1, kind of a 2, a little undersized to be a 1, but doesn't have the, or a little undersized to be a 2, but doesn't have the ball skills to be a 1, an on-ball guy. And Anthony Simons' first year, he barely played 20 games. He shot 44% from the floor, 34% from three. Then he gets into the rotation, 70 games, 4 starts, shoots 39% from the floor and 33% from three. That's Keonte George. Keontae's a little bit better three-point shooter. And then his third year in the NBA, Anthony Simons jumps up to 41% from the floor, which is not awesome, but it's over the 40% number. And then from three, he goes to 42%. That's the difference.
Yes.
His three started going in at a high enough rate that it just raised his overall shooting percentage. And then by year 4, he's 17 points a game, 44% from the floor, 40% from three. That's the value for Keonte. Like, he just has to make shots.
Yep.
He has to take better ones, but he has to make them.
I will add, you can have, like, if scoring is your bread and butter, but it depends who you play next to, then you're just not good enough.
Yeah.
But there are players like Draymond Green. If Draymond Green was on the Bulls for his career instead of the Warriors,
Not a player.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Certainly not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. So it is sort of like that, but I agree with you that, like, if you're a scoring, but who you're next to depends how good your scoring is, then it's like, what's the value?
Yeah, it shouldn't.
Yeah.
He just needs to play better. He just needs to make more shots. And, I'm not sold my Keonte stock. I think there's a world where he's at 18 or 19 points. He was at 17 last year.
Yep.
There's chance where he's 18, 19 points a game. And if he shoots 3 percentage points better from the floor and from the 3-point line, we look at him through a totally different lens.
Yeah.
All right. That'll do it for this week's Jazz Notes podcast. Probably going to be recording solo next week, which also means no video because Chandler knows how to set it up and I don't. But there will be a podcast next week. Thanks for following us on Twitter and Blue Sky, Ben's Hoops, Holt Sports, and read us at KSLSports.com. We'll be back with you 7 days.